Starscourge Radahn is one of the most unique boss fights in the Souls series. It's a fight where you're allowed to summon in an army of phantoms to help you fight him, but it's just as chaotic as it sounds. The fight begins by him sniping you from across a battlefield. Immediately go for the summon signs you see on the ground. There are conveniently placed weapons sticking up out of the battlefield that will block 2 full arrows for you while you summon the signs that are behind them. From what I've seen, the purple arrows are nearly impossible to dodge on the back of Torrent, but you can dodge them easily on the ground by just rolling into them right as they're about to hit you. After he fires a couple purple arrows at you, he'll aim his bow up into the sky and fire. Then a column of continuous arrows will fall and head right for you. They track, so it doesn't matter which way you go, they'll always be following you. I recommend riding Torrent off to one of the sides of the arena. That way none of the raining arrows come down on top of the summons that you just called in. The thing to look out for is when he fires his bow at you again. He'll fire a scattering of arrows, and if they hit you, they will stagger you. And the remaining arrows coming from the sky will very easily catch up to you, effectively being a one-shot. All you have to do is keep dodging and delay until your summons run up the hill and do damage to him. His aggro will immediately change to them, and you will be safe to heal and summon the remaining phantoms towards the back of the arena. I recommend going in as soon as you can, so that way he doesn't quickly kill off all the phantoms that you summoned. You can use Torrent to dart in and out of combat, doing some hits here and there while your phantoms keep him busy. But you don't have to use Torrent if you don't want to. A lot of my attempts were on foot, and I used Scholar's Shield to effectively block all of his attacks without taking any damage. If you and your phantoms hit him enough times in rapid succession, he will be open to a riposte. The weak spot is his head, which can be very difficult to get to if you've been hitting him in the back for most of the fight. I actually had him come down on top of me, blocking me from getting to his head. So if you're stuck or if you can't reach his weak spot in time, just get as many hits in on his body as you can. It'll still amount to a good amount of damage. You don't have to get the riposte, but it can be pretty nice. Something to note is there are more summons that appear once he starts phase 2, so if all of your summons die before then, don't worry, you can get some more for the second phase. You can tell you've made it to phase 2 when he leaps high into the sky and you lose track of him completely. The music will stop, and you'll sit around waiting for something to happen. Get on Torrent and start riding in a direction as fast as you can. Look at the sky as you are riding. He will come down as a massive fireball. You can actually use sound to help figure out which direction he's coming from. From what I've seen, he does aim for you, but if you can look up and see his trajectory, you can dodge him very easily by just picking a direction and sticking to it. Now, I did have him come down and kill all of my phantoms with one move, but as I said earlier, more signs do appear towards the back of the arena. I recommend going for them as soon as phase 2 starts, so that way they can take his aggro off of you. Use this time to rebuff your weapons and heal up from any damage you may have taken from the first part of the fight. But as I said earlier, try and get back into the action as soon as you can, to get his aggro back onto you. If you leave him alone with your phantoms for too long, he will destroy them, and then it'll just be the two of you, and your chances of winning go down drastically. Ideally, you and your phantoms will be damaging him consistently, and his aggro will be changing repeatedly between you and them. This gives everyone a chance to heal up and get a breather so that way he doesn't focus on one person for too long. He does have an attack which pulls you in front of him, and then he'll try and follow it up with a second move which will do most of your health in a single hit. It's pretty easy to dodge if you roll as soon as you get pulled in. Try and go behind him if you can, because then he won't be able to hit you with the big AoE attack at all. Besides just doing a lot more damage, the hardest part about phase 2 is when he pulls 4 rocks up out of the ground. They will hover around him, and when he cues them in, they will fly towards you. 2 of them will come at you first, with 2 shortly after. I tried blocking this attack numerous times, and every time it resulted in my death. The first 2 break your guard, and while you're sitting there recovering, the second 2 one-shot you. The only way to deal with them is to dodge them precisely. But something I noticed is, if you're close to him, he never seems to fire them at you because they're a mid to long range attack. He may try to get some distance on you in order to fire them, but he never did that during the final attempt that I did. He can also summon several purple orbs that rise over his head and then fly towards you after a short amount of time. You can usually dodge them pretty easily just by rolling forward or to the side a couple of times. Just be sure not to get caught in his follow-up immediately after. It's worth noting that he can use some of these attacks during Phase 1, but usually he chooses not to. He usually just sticks to close quarters combat with you and the Phantoms. I've noticed that he typically only uses the special attacks if it's just you and him. The most crucial piece of advice I can give for this boss is do as much damage as you can during the first phase. If you do, you can get him very low before he even starts the second phase. I got him to about 1/6 health before he could go into phase 2 because we just kept staggering him and doing ripostes before he could jump into the air. In my opinion, a lot of his attacks are harder to dodge on torrent than on foot, but you can still use him to great effect to help you get out of dangerous situations very quickly. You can retreat and drink some flasks, or rebuff your weapon if the fight is taking too long. This fight can be very tricky, especially for someone new to the Souls series. It did take me a little while to get it, but after about 15 or so tries, I was able to get the routine down flat. And something I noticed too was the final attempt was by far my fastest out of all of them. I don't think that this is a fight that you should drag on for safety reasons. I do think that rushing is a crucial part of the strategy, to a degree. I know it's probably going to be a lot of pain and suffering for some people, but just remember, he's worth 70,000 souls, so hopefully it'll all be worth it in the end. Thank you for watching this guide, and I'm wishing all of you good luck.